what I need to. Have you logged out, was it?
No.
I think you're co-host in case. I think there was one or two people. Okay, so let's begin, inshallah. So what we're doing here is we're coming here to gain knowledge, inshallah. The purpose of studying Arabic is to gain the knowledge of the Quran and Hadith. The purpose is not to be able to speak Arabic, but yes, we will be speaking Arabic throughout the course, inshallah. But that's not the purpose. The purpose isn't that we learn bits of Arabic so we can get a job in an Arab country. So the purpose here is not to earn money. The purpose is not so I can go to a restaurant and know how to order my favorite soup, and then how do I order meat and then salad, and how do I have a nice conversation with the waiter. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to understand the Quran and Hadith, to gain directly from the Quran and Hadith. So when I open the Quran, when Allah talks to me, I know what Allah is saying to me. I understand the message. So we understand the gems of the Quran, we understand the gems of the Hadith. So we can relate with the Prophet ﷺ and take directly from them. This is the purpose of studying here. It doesn't mean we're not going to learn how to speak. We will be learning how to speak. We'll be practicing our speaking Arabic as well. But it's important that we correct our intention, because actions are according to intentions. If we just learn Arabic, just learn how to speak so we can go to an Arab country and just get by, then this becomes a dunyawi reason. So all of this learning the Arabic language will be just for dunya. And when something is for the dunya, Allah leaves us to it, meaning there is no rewards for this in the hereafter. So something becomes from the hereafter by means of our intention. And inshallah, if our intention is good, Allah will use this means to grant us knowledge. Because the main thing is knowledge. When the Prophet ﷺ said, how do we know that Allah wants good for someone? The Prophet ﷺ said, مَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. That whoever Allah desires good for, Allah gives that person understanding of deen. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one, is that He connects us to the circles of knowledge. Because if we're not in the circles of knowledge, then the understanding of deen will not come. So how do I know that Allah wants good for us? Is because He gives us understanding, that desire within us to seek knowledge. And now from amongst those people who seek knowledge, who is greater than the other? The person that has the most desire. Whoever has the most desire, it means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is drawing that person closer and closer towards Himself. That's why we need to have, when it comes to students of knowledge, there's two things. One is the desire for knowledge, one is the amassing of knowledge. And the first one is important, more important than the other. So because if a student of knowledge has the desire for knowledge, then a student of knowledge will constantly gain knowledge. But if you attend a class but without the desire for knowledge, your knowledge will be restricted to the class time and you won't benefit as much. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to raise a people, He gives them knowledge and He gives them the desire for knowledge. That's what Allah says in the Quran, يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. That Allah raises the people, those who have iman amongst you, and those who have knowledge, Allah raises their rank even higher than all others. So alhamdulillah, so that's why in the Arabic language, what's the student of knowledge called in Arabic language? Talib al-ilm means to seek knowledge. Talib is the seeker of knowledge. So the student in Arabic, you call him a talib al-ilm. Talib means to seek. When a person is thirsty, you go and seek, isn't it? So when a person is dying of thirst, you're not going to sit there and wait for water to come to you. So if you're thirsty, you go to the well, you go to the water source. So that's why a student of knowledge in Arabic is talib al-ilm, someone that's seeking and thirsty for knowledge. And so for us to be true students, seekers of knowledge, we need to be thirsty for knowledge. And a person is thirsty for knowledge, they take every opportunity to learn. And they don't wait for knowledge to come to them, they go to the knowledge, they seek it out. This is very important. And our teachers used to tell us that when you used to look at our situation in class, they used to look at us and say, "Tum log talib ilm nahi." He goes, "You guys, you're not students of, you're not seekers of knowledge. You're talib al-film. You're talib al-film. You're seekers of films and entertainment," and that's what he used to tell us. So studying is getting into the mindset of seeking knowledge, and that's why. And those of us that can attend on site, this is extremely important, because what happens, one of the requisites, everything has a requisite. So if I want to become a doctor, there's certain steps I need to take to become a doctor. Someone on the group chat can just help him out. So if I think I'm just gonna become a doctor from my bed, it's very unlikely in the realm of possibilities, it is probably a possibility, but it's 1 in a million chance that you'll actually become a doctor. So with everything, there's a requisite, there's requirements that need to take place. And now when it comes to gaining knowledge of Islam, there are also requisites and requirements. And the base and the requirement, and what are these requirements? We understand from the Quran and Hadith, and from those people that have become successful. So if you want to know how to become a doctor, you ask a person who's become a successful doctor. If you want to know how to become an engineer, you ask a person who's become a successful engineer. So likewise, if you want to learn how to gain knowledge, or how do I become successful in knowledge, we have to go to those who have become successful in knowledge. And one of the greatest scholars that we've ever had was the student of Imam Abu Hanifa, the greatest Imam, Imam al-Adil. Yeah. So his student was Imam Abu Yusuf, and he used to say constantly, لا ينال العلم براحة الجسم ولا يستطاع العلم براحة الجسم. That knowledge can never be attained with the comfort of with the comfort of the body. Knowledge can never be attained. So meaning a person that wants to gain knowledge, but he still wants a comfortable life, he wants to learn it from the comfort of his home, it's impossible. It's not going to happen. It's like wishing to have knowledge without going through difficulty. It's like wishing to be a unicorn. It's the same thing. Both will never happen. So this has been the sunnah of all the ulama. So when it comes to gaining knowledge, we have to come into the mindset of gaining knowledge. Sometimes we wait for knowledge to come to us, or knowledge is restricted to class time. But no, for a student, a true student of the knowledge, you're supposed to be thinking about knowledge all the time. All the time. Okay, what do I need to be doing? What's my next task? Have I learned this? Have I learned that? Our mind should always be occupied with knowledge. The same person, Imam Abu Yusuf, he spent 20 years with Imam Abu Hanifa studying. Even on the Eid day, he did not leave Imam Abu Hanifa. He used to go to him to learn knowledge. And Imam Abu Yusuf, when he was passing away, many of his students and people came to visit him on his deathbed. So the one particular group of people, they came to see him, and Imam Abu Yusuf, he was lying down ill, and so these people, they came in to see him, and they said to him that, and no, sir, Imam Abu Yusuf said to the people, what's more rewarding? Is it tawaf on foot, or is tawaf mounting an animal more rewarding? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he also done tawaf mounted on an animal. So just thinking about that, imagine on his deathbed, he's thinking about masail. Like he's never going to do tawaf again. But these people, they were preoccupied. To that extent, they were preoccupied with knowledge. And then they told Imam Abu Yusuf that, we don't know. What do you think? And then they had a quick discussion, and then they left him. And as soon as they left his house, he passed away, right outside. So when they took a few steps outside his house, he had passed away. So even in the last moments, the scholars of the past were thinking about ilm. So and Imam Abu Yusuf, this incident is famous about him, and I say this all the time. So once his child passed away, and after his child passed away, he had a problem, because when he does the ghusl and the kafan of the child, burial of the child, he's going to miss his lesson with Imam Abu Hanifa. But he's going to regret that. Imagine the knowledge that he's going to miss. And if he goes to Imam Abu Hanifa's lesson, he's going to regret that, because he's going to miss his child's janazah. So he started thinking, which one do I do? Which one should I go to? Should I go to the lesson? Should I go to the janazah? Which one do you think he went to at the end? He went to the lesson, in case he says something which I didn't know, and I regret it for the rest of my life. So this was Imam Abu Yusuf. And his other companion, the other great Imam from Imam Abu Hanifa, the great Imam student, was Imam Muhammad. He was famous for not sleeping at night time. He would stay awake the whole night, reading book after book. And when he'd get tired of one book, he'd go to the next book, and the next book, and had water there. He'd always have water there. And when he's tired, he'd throw it in his face to keep himself awake. So Imam Muhammad again. So these were great Imams. And someone asked Imam Muhammad that, why don't you sleep at night? He was famous for that. He was known for that. And they said, like, the whole world goes to sleep, thinking that when they have a problem, they'll come to Muhammad. Now, what if Muhammad's asleep? Who are the people going to turn to? So he used to be busy studying and writing all the way throughout the night. Once a person, Asad ibn al-Furat, he was one of the founders of the Maliki school. So he was a student of Imam Malik. I think he was from Egypt or Spain. I think he was from Egypt. So he traveled all the way to Medina to study with Imam Malik. And Imam Malik, he didn't like any debates, too much questioning, because he was from the Ashab al-Hadith. who just used to prefer narrating hadith and didn't like going into too much logic and things like that. So he didn't like excessive questions. So that's why the students of Medina, they were scared to ask Imam Malik so many questions. But if you're a foreigner, generally the teacher's a bit more tough with you. So all the questions all the other students had, they used to tell Asad ibn al-Furat that go ask Imam Malik this, go ask Imam Malik this. So he used to listen to them. So he's a foreigner, the teacher respects him. He's traveled for a long way to study. So, and one day Imam Malik, he got fed up. He got fed up with it because if you want to keep on asking for logical reasonings and all that sort of stuff, we don't do this here in Medina. Go to the other place. Which place was known for logic? Kufa. Let's go to Kufa. So Hasan ibn al-Furat, he thought, you got a point, and he left him. He left Imam Malik, and he went to Iraq to study with the Hanafi scholars, the Iraqi scholars. It wasn't known as the Hanafi school then, but it's the Iraqi school, the regional school. So then Imam Muhammad was there. So he came to Imam Muhammad. So imagine this is a very special student who had studied many years, a long time with Imam Malik. So, and Imam Muhammad, the student of Imam Hanifa, he used to have large circles. So he joined into the circle and he realized, I can't benefit too much. There's too many students here. And then he came to Imam Muhammad after class, and he told Imam Muhammad that there's too many students here, I can't benefit. And then Imam Muhammad was thinking, okay, what should I do now? Basically, and Imam Muhammad used to teach the whole day. So there's no other time that you could give him during the day. So Imam Muhammad thought, you know what? I study at night time. You come to me. You stay with me. So he used to live with Imam Muhammad and used to teach him at night time, throughout the night. So he used to teach the. Have you Faizan? Have you given him the link? He's asking for it.
Oh, right. On the group.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send it.
So yeah. So there's countless number of instances how the ulama, they sacrifice for knowledge, and because without sacrifice for knowledge will never be attained. About 200 years ago, one book that we study. So if you want to become a Hanafi Mufti, there's the most important book is by Ibn Abidin. He passed away about 200 or so years ago, roughly around 200 something years ago. His main student was Sheikh Abdul Ghani al-Ghunaymi. They used to live in Damascus. So again, Sheikh Ibn Abidin, he was very busy. He didn't have time to have his open lectures for the full public. And his main student, he wanted to study with him more knowledge. So the only time that he had to teach his student was at Tahajjud time. So he said to him, if you want to learn knowledge, come to me at Tahajjud. So Sheikh Abdul Ghani, he used to live right on the opposite side of Damascus. So he used to probably travel for about a couple of hours at night time, get to him for Tahajjud time. And then when he used to come to his teacher's house for Tahajjud time, he wouldn't knock on his door in case, let's say, his teacher's sleeping and he wakes him up or he's resting. So what he would do, he would just sit outside his teacher's house. If his teacher happens to notice him, then he would call him in, and then he would say, okay, let's study, what do you want to learn today? And then he would teach him. And that was his habit. Every single day, he would travel and go to his teacher to study at Tahajjud time. And one day it was snowing really bad, like very, very heavy snow. And Imam Ibn Abidin, he thought to himself, he's not coming today. So he just continued with his Tahajjud Salah. And afterwards, after he finished the Tahajjud Salah, he left his house to go to the masjid and sees a student there sitting on the floor, just fully covered in snow. So he actually came all the way in the snow. So knowledge has survived due to the sacrifice of these people, and they weren't born the greatest ulama that we've ever had. They were born as people who did not know even the basics. Majority of the scholars of hadith, like Imam Bukhari, he's from Russia. Majority of the scholars of hadith, they weren't Arabs. They were non-Arabs, which means they had to pick up a book and start studying Alif Ba Ta Tha. They had to start learning the basics of the Arabic language. Imam Abu Hanifa, he was not an Arab. He was Persian. He was born in Iraq. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he wasn't an Arab. He's a Persian. So if we actually look at the lives and biographies of these people, majority of them were not Arabs. They had to start somewhere. There was a starting point to all these people. But the difference between them and the difference between us is that they made the decision to gain knowledge. and they became true seekers of knowledge, where their life was occupied by it. They sacrificed for knowledge. Today, if a student wants to become successful in knowledge, there's few things. The first thing, number one, is the desire. If you do not have the burning desire to gain knowledge, you will not succeed in knowledge. So your heart has to literally be inflamed with the desire. I want to become, I want this knowledge. I want to understand Quran. I want to know Hadith, number one. And so that's the first thing. But just having desire is not enough. Many people have many desires. I wanted to become a professional boxer, a long time ago, but I never became one. I had the desire. But with desire, you need mujahid. You need the desire. You need to be able to undergo difficulty. And that's where everyone fails. People want knowledge easy. They're not ready to go through difficulty. They're not ready to, stay awake in the night. They're not ready to, get less sleep. They're not ready to make sacrifice or give up. Because to gain anything which is valuable, you need to give up other things which are less valuable. And one of the reason why we fail in gaining knowledge, because we're not ready to give up something which is less valuable. Sometimes it could be my time that I spend on YouTube. It could be my time that I spend on social media. It could be the time that I spend just going out with friends. So with anything that you want to gain which is valuable, which has status, you need to give up other things which are less valuable and so less status. So number two is mujahada. So number one is we need to have desire, talab, and number two is mujahada, and number three is sincerity, because without sincerity we won't gain much, and because this knowledge is nur, it's light, and the light of Allah comes from Allah Himself. If you do it from anyone apart from Allah, or for any other motive or reason, then we won't gain much from this. Even when we come to class, we won't gain much from class. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, "Innama ana qasim, wallahu yu'ti." The Prophet ﷺ used to tell the Sahaba that I am just a distributor, and Allah is the one that gives. Meaning, he should say that in the gatherings of knowledge. He's just a distributor, meaning he'll tell you the knowledge, but the actual understanding of that knowledge, it comes from Allah. So these are the three things. So that comes with piety, that comes with our connection with Allah, staying away from sins. So the less sins we do, the more desire that we'll have to gain knowledge. And the more sins that we have in our life, Allah takes away this desire for knowledge. Because this ilm is nur. Like Imam al-Shafi rahimahullah, when he was young, he complained to his teacher Waqi'. It's a famous story. And he actually wrote a poem about it later on in his life. Shakawtu ila waqi'i su'a hifdhi, that I complained to Waqi' due to how bad my memory was. فَأَرْشَدَنِي إِلَى تَرْكِ الْمَعَاصِي, then he told me to leave sins. فَإِنَّ الْعِلْمَ نُورٌ, because knowledge is light. وَنُورُ اللَّهِ لَا يُعْطَى لِعَاصِي, and the light of Allah is not given to a sinner. So he told him to stay away from sins. And actually, one thing he was curious about, why did he go to Waqi'? He had so many other teachers. Why did he go to Waqi' in particular? Waqi' was one of the great scholars of Kufa. He was a contemporary of Imam Hanifa. Two great Imams, mashallah. So I checked out Imam Waqi''s biography. He was known as a Hafidul Hadith. And in those days, a Hafid is a person who had memorized at least 100,000 hadiths with a chain of narration. So obviously he had extraordinary memory. So he went to the person who he knew who had the most extraordinary memory. So he asked him. And that's the advice that he gave him. So what happens if we have sins in our life? Allah takes away this desire to do good. So this is what you call tawfiq, where Allah just leaves us to ourselves. So the opposite of tawfiq is khidlan. Opposite of tawfiq is not that Allah actually misguides you actively. No, it's khidlan, where Allah just leaves you to yourself. And then what happens is the desire to do good, the desire to get knowledge decreases within ourselves. And that's the effects of sins and the disobedience of Allah. So generally, like whenever when we were studying in Blackburn, we used to have many students in the class. And obviously you get students that are just falling asleep every lesson. And our teachers used to say to them, that you're sitting in the lesson of Quran and Hadith. All the ilm that you can possibly want is in front of you. But what's the situation? You're sleeping. And you used to say to them, think about the sins that you've done. And do tawbah, so Allah gives you the tawfiq to stay awake in class. So it's the spiritual knowledge is all to do with our connection with Allah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all tawfiq, inshallah, to study. So these are our first steps, inshallah. So now the plan of the course is, so it will be, so generally we do have slower paced courses, and we will start them at some point, inshallah. So generally we teach Arabic about once a week. sometime. So these are slower paced courses. So if this course is a bit too much for anyone, then they can do a slower paced course that we start later on. I'm not saying you should, but if this becomes too much. So the purpose of this is minimum 3 days a week. We may even increase it. We may even do other times, depends on what's more suitable for the students. We may even have to slit in like half-an-hour sessions, like in an evening or something, or and later on down the line. I'm not saying like right now. But the purpose of this course is to try and get go as fairly quickly through the Arabic language and sort our basics, foundations of Arabic language, inshallah. So it's supposed to be a faster paced course rather than a slow paced course. So generally with Arabic, one thing is attending a lesson, which is obviously important. And ideally, those brothers who are local, and there's a brother called El Hanif. If you can just use is that your first name, Hanif? So if everyone just name yourselves what you want me to call you. Is that the brother that you just let in, was he?
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
I'm guessing so.
Oh. So let's see. Yeah, so the first thing is, so those brothers that are local should try and attend the actual on-site lesson. Because what happens, I've been teaching Arabic for quite a long time now, about 6 years or so. Probably not, about 6 years or so I've been teaching Arabic. So the first is we attend lesson, and when the online option is there, slowly the attendance becomes 50-50, 50% online and 50% on site. And then it becomes 80% online, then 90% online, then 100% online. And then it's online recordings, I'll catch up later. And then it's 80% attendance, 70, and then we'll never see you again. Yeah. So that's the general trend. So when I first started teaching Medina Book 1, in the first class we had about 50 students, and that was left to about 5 at the end. It's big. First it's the on-site, and then it's the online, and then that's the trend. So you see, even the first class that I started, we had about 25 students or so in that class. Right now we're left with 3 students. 2 of them are original, and 1 joined afterwards. So left with 2 students. So if you want to ensure that you don't become one of those students, the first thing is attending on site. So that's your physical mujahada. When you're doing physical mujahada for something, you're always going to be there. Even if you don't feel like learning Arabic, because Arabic sometimes it's enjoyable, and a lot of the times very tedious. You're going to get to a point, I don't feel like doing this. We used to feel like that. It's like, I can't bother with this. It's just so much again and again and again and again. So with Arabic, and then sometimes what happens, then you realize, that same word that you memorized, when you pick up the Quran, you understand it. It's like, this is amazing. So then you get a bit of motivation, but then next week you lose your motivation completely. The main thing with Arabic is you just keep on going. Even if, let's say, for argument's sake, you have not done any of the work, just turn up to class. Number 1 rule for Arabic, just turn up to class. Even if you've done nothing outside of class, you don't have no idea what lesson we're on, you've done nothing. Number 1, turn up to class. What's the big mistake that students make? That, I'm 2 lessons behind. How can I turn up to class? So let me learn these 2 lessons first. And then what happens is, then they're behind on the next lesson. So they need to learn that lesson first before they can attend class. Then they need to learn that lesson first before they can attend class. So they're always trying to catch up. So the number 1 rule is just attend class. Even if you haven't done anything, you don't know anything, just attend class. And then after you've attended that class, pick up whatever you can. Even if you don't end up learning anything in class, just you being there on time, that's the main thing. And then afterwards, pick up go over the rest of your classes. So first we're going to be studying the Arabic language. We're starting with this book, Darul-ilm al-Arabiya. So all the details is on the chat. So the course link is on the chat. The book links, the jump share links is on the chat. So please do read the chat. So generally sometimes we have students that don't read any of the messages and they type all the questions. Which book do I need to buy? Where's the Zoom details? Or everything is there on the chat. So you just need to read it. So number 1, we're going to start with this book, Darul-ilm al-Arabiya. So this is Medina Arabic Book 1. Generally, I like this copy. So this is done by one of my teachers, and he's formatted it quite nicely, and everything is there. You can get this from Kitabun. And down the line, So after a few weeks of this, so this shouldn't take us too long. This is basically how I'd explain this is Arabic for dummies. So this, the purpose of this just to introduce to you, so you have a rough idea what's Arabic is about. That's the purpose of this book. And after a few weeks into it, we're going to start another book called 10 Lessons of the Arabic Language. So that's very crucial. That's going to give you the full structure of the Arabic language. Then after Medina book 1 is done, we're going to be doing Medina book 2, Durusul Lugha al-Arabiyya, part 2. That's a bit serious. Part 2 of this book is it's quite serious Arabic. So these 3 books. And then after that, I have we're going to do Sarf. So the Arabic language, there's 3 things that we focus on. So number 1 is vocabulary, because if you don't know any words of the language, you won't be able to understand anything. Doesn't matter how many grammar rules you know, you're not going to understand anything. So number 1 is vocabulary. So as we're going on with these lessons, the key is picking up vocabulary every lesson. So what you're aiming to do, for anyone that wants to learn Arabic, the minimum requirement is number 1, obviously you turn up to class. And number 2, minimum, every class needs at least 1 hour of your own time. So you should be expecting to study on your own outside of class time, minimum 3 days a week to 4 or 5, as many as you can do. So if you just turn up to class, what's going to happen? You're going to fall behind, and then you're not going to be able to do it. So coming up to attending 1 class means that you're going to go over minimum, spend 1 hour in your spare time going over the vocabulary, practicing the phrases. So if you have 3 sessions in a week, it means minimum 3 hours. And that's what I'm talking about, the bare minimum. Ideally, should be about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but the bare minimum to actually just survive. Not to be like the best student, but just to survive is 1 hour. So that's what's expected in this course. Anything less than that, you're not going to be able to hack it. You might get away with it in the beginning, first few months, because it's easy, but as it gets difficult, so what happens is you have a foundational knowledge, then you build on that, then you build on that, then you build on that. If you haven't been given your 1 hour, you're not going to have the foundational knowledge to build on. And then what happens is then you're confused about everything. So that's how Arabic works. So that's what you expect. And then after that, we're going to go through. So then I have okay, so when it comes to learning Arabic, there's 3 things. Number 1 was the vocabulary. And number 2 is the subject called sarf. The sarf is the conjugation of forming different words. So you take one root word in Arabic, and then you change that into a past tense verb. You change that into a present tense verb, into a future tense verb, and so on. So you learn how to change from one word into another. So that's the second subject I'm going to focus on. And sarf is like 70% of Arabic. So when we start sarf, this is what we focus on. If you know sarf, you know Arabic. The rest of the 20%, I would say, is vocabulary. And 10% of Arabic is the grammar. The grammar is like salt on the food. It's just, if you know grammar, alhamdulillah, if you're weak in your grammar, it's not too much of an issue. Grammar is the most boring part. So we're going to be focused on these 3 things. So after we've done Medina book 2, that's when we'll start a book called Qisasun Nabiyyin, which is stories of the prophets. So we're going to be using our grammar knowledge, our verbs and sarf knowledge, and our vocabulary knowledge to actually go through a text now in Arabic. So which is the stories of the prophets. Starts off with the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam in Arabic. There's no translation, so we'll be translating in class. I'm going to give you guys work to do, and you guys will be going back, learning how to use a dictionary, translating, and so on. So starts off with the story of Ibrahim, then Yusuf, then Adam alayhi salam, and he works through prophets. And after that's done, then we're planning to go through the 30th juz of the Quran. So by that time, understanding Quran should be quite simple now. It's just we're going to go through it together, and then we'll start a hadith book together, maybe some Riyadh al-Salihin. We'll go through without the translations, not the English one, the Arabic one, and we'll start going through translations of the hadith. We'll select chapters, and afterwards, then we'll select a book on fiqh as well. So then you've got a primary basic level of hadith, basic level of Quran, you've got basic level of fiqh, and then the next stage after that is now building a higher level of fiqh, higher level of Quran, higher level of hadith, and you build on these subjects. Then you start in Aqidah level 1, then we do Aqidah level 2, everything directly from the primary sources, which is the aim of the course. So again, this is a long journey. It's not a short-term journey. It's not a crash course where you do it for 4 months and you come out of Mujtahid on the other side, competing with Imam Abu Hanifa. So it's a long journey, which requires a lot of discipline. It requires a lot of motivation. One amazing book is that all students of Arabic should read is the book called Compound Effect by the Sheikh. What's his name?
The Sheikh.
Yeah, he's a sheikh, a master. Anyone read that book, The Compound Effect? So it's very good. And I tell all my students to read it. I've read it twice. I've listened to an audiobook as well. It's a very good book. It's called The Compound Effect. It puts you into the mindset how to use your time. And it's like he calls it like compound interest. You have a small amount of money, and then as money builds up, every payment it seems insignificant, but as you keep on going, it builds up, and after 10 years, you're sitting on a lot of money. So knowledge is like compound effect. So sometimes you might think, let's say practicing for an hour outside of class, it feels like you're not getting anywhere. But after a month, it's going to be something. After 6 months, it's going to be something. After 5 years, you're going to be at a very good level. So it's the compound effect, it's a very important book. If anyone wants to read, feel free to read through that.
The Telegram, could you repost the links because I can't see the previous.
You can't see the previous chat?
Yeah.
Oh no, must be the settings.
I can just re-forward everything.
Okay, we'll sort that out. That's the reason why we use Telegram, so you can see the previous posts. Okay, so that's that. So before we anything else, does anyone have any questions about what we're doing, what we're starting? You don't have any questions? Online guys as well, feel free to unmute your mic and ask anything. Check if you can see the chat history now. Into the chat history.
Sorry, is it possible to be sending us what we need to be doing before we come to the class so that we can read at the end before we come to the class? If possible.
Yes, definitely. That's another thing I was supposed to say as well. When it comes to learning Arabic, there's 3 stages. There's 3 things that we should be doing. So one is what we call mutala'a, which you look over the lesson before coming to lesson. So it's not that you self-study everything and you spend like 10 hours trying to figure it out. No, so what you do, you spend about 10-15 minutes, open the book, read through it, see what you know, what you don't know, see where you can grasp yourself. Just for about 15 minutes, you just look over it. So this is called mutala'a. Number 2 is attending the lesson on time and finishing on time. And number 3 is takrar. Then after that, you go. Ideally, if you can do Arabic with a partner, you'll benefit 1,000,000 times more than a person who does not have a partner. So even when we were studying our initial Arabic for 6 years in Blackburn, every day we'd have our own partners. And every day, whatever we've been taught, we'd open the same books and we teach to our partner what we've just been taught. And even till today, what I taught to my friends from the lesson, I remember that. And what I didn't teach to my friends from the lesson, I've forgotten all of that. So the best way to remember something is to teach it. So as when we start, you'll know, basically with this book, so there's lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. So when we do lesson 1, so then next lesson will be lesson 2, next lesson will be lesson 3. So this book, we're just going in order. So you just look over before that. Yeah.
Do we need to order down kind of by force and trade?
I've put the link on the Telegram group where to order it from.
Okay.
Yeah. And the 10 lessons of Arabic book, we've got about 6 copies of them downstairs. So that you can get that from here. But I've run out of these copies. So at the moment, we're doing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, inshallah. Any other questions? Chat's not coming. Okay, maybe from now, I think. So now that I've enabled the chat history.
There's one.
Okay, and if anyone has any other questions afterwards, feel free to ask.
When taking notes, we start from this side. So going backwards.
It's a very interesting question.
I remember when I did it before, we used to do it that way. So not
It depends if you're writing your notes in English or Arabic,
but we're going to be doing Arabic in it, so it makes sense to do it.
Ideally, yeah.
Yeah,
So I remember.
start from
Yeah. Any other questions? You want to ask anything about what we're going to be doing? Okay, so we'll do. We're going to finish in about 15 minutes. We're just to get started today. So we'll finish early today. Get some sleep. And
how many hours every lesson?
I planned for it to be up till 1 hour and 30 minutes. Because generally 1 hour for this is a bit too quick. So we do 1 hour of lesson, about 30 minutes of going over it ourselves and practice speaking, and so me listening to you guys trying to implement. So it's up to 1 hour 30 minutes. Sometimes it may be less, but generally like maximum. So I when I advertise the course, I put it as 1 hour 30 minutes, because sometimes be 1 hour, sometimes be 1 hour 10, 1 hour 20 minutes, 1 hour 30 minutes maximum.
So next lesson is on Friday.
Inshallah. Okay, so